All right, everybody, welcome to BO Boys for Monday, May 1st. Fuck it, it's a raw feed. We're doing it live. I'm Clayton.
Yeah, I'm Pat and Clayton. The newbies didn't do bees, that great bees at the BO this weekend, but the holdovers, they didn't roll over because they're still at the top of the box office. Clayton, could you give us a plow for the weekend of Friday, April 28th, 2023?
Yes, number one, the Super Mario Brothers movie made $40 million, down 33% only. It is standing at $490 million in its fourth weekend. Number two, Evil Dead Rise made $12.2 million, down only 50%. It added 15 theaters. It is at $44.4 million in its second frame. Number three, A Newbie. Are You There, God? It's Me, Margaret. Made $6.8 million in its first frame. Number four, John Wick Chapter 4 made $5 million, down 14%. It lost 204 theaters. It's at $176.1 million in its sixth weekend. Number five, a re-release. Star Wars Return of the Jedi made $4.6 million in its, let's see, 2084th weekend. It's at $313.8 million all in. Number six, Dungeons and Dragons Honor Among Thieves made $4.1 million, down 25%, lost 251 theaters. It's at $88.1 million in its fifth weekend. Number seven, Guy Ritchie's The Covenant made $3.6 million, down 43%. It added 20 theaters, weirdly. It's at $12.2 million in its second weekend. And number eight, Sisu made $3.2 million in its first frame. Another newbie coming in at nine is Big George Foreman, the miraculous story of ... I'm not going the whole way with this $3 million earner in its first weekend. And then number 10, The Pope's Exorcist made $1.7 million, down 49%. It lost 1,228 theaters. It is at $18 million in its third frame. That is the top 10.
Wow. So the story here is Mario just continues to dominate. And I mean, that will come to an end this coming weekend because Guardians of the Galaxy opens on Friday, May 5th, and Mario will be moved out of the top spot. A lot of the Mario fans are going to go see the Guardians. But I mean, this Mario run is, even for people who said, like us, that Mario is going to be one of the biggest movies of this year, it's going to be a gigantic. I think this Mario run is officially eclipsing anyone's expectations. You know,
Well, yeah. I mean, here it goes right here. This
mhm.
fourth weekend is the best ever for an animated movie, beating Incredibles 2, which only made 28.4 in its fourth weekend,
Wow,
right? Which, I mean,
wow,
that's spectacular, but
spectacular.
Super Mario is phenomenal. It's insane. And then it's also the best fourth frame for a Universal title. It's even ahead of No Way Home's fourth weekend, and that thing was a Goliath. So this thing is going crazy. It is a billion-dollar baby officially,
Yes,
and it
yes,
didn't even break a sweat, it feels like.
yes. It is. It is nowhere near the end of its run. I mean, this is a James Cameron-esque run that Mario is on right now. You know, these holds this deep into a billion-dollar movie, these are Cameron-esque holds.
Yeah.
And the question is, how high can this go? It's at 490 million domestic. Are we looking at possibly a $700 million domestic earning situation? Does Mario have 200 million left? I mean, I know Guardians is going to really shift the audience, suck up a lot of air in the room that normally would have went to Mario. But I think at this point you can't undersell what Mario is capable of. You cannot discount this little Italian plumber any longer.
Well, the thing is that Super Mario Brothers is entering the summer movie season, right? So it's
Yep.
going to have so much more competition than it did previously. Because when you think about it, what else was it really going up against that could have uh, nicked it at all, right? I mean, Evil
Mhm.
Dead Rise, completely different audience. So I just, are you there, God? It's me, Margaret. Listen, Judy Bloom. There's a lot of there's a good amount of fans of Judy Bloom, I assume, but she ain't Mario.
She ain't Mario.
She
No.
ain't Nintendo. All right,
No.
Super
No.
Fudge ain't Mario. So
No.
w- I just I'm not gonna discount Mario, but it may be hard to continue this run when there's a ton of competition.
Mhm.
I mean
Mhm.
I mean 700 domestic, I mean, that's so much. But, listen, it could do it. If any movie could do it, it could do it. I just think it's so crowded. It's gonna be just so, so crowded.
Right. Although post Guardians, May doesn't go nuts until later in the month. You know,
Mhm.
It's Guardians and then it's a few weeks until what's the next biggie at the end of May? Is that Fast X comes out Memorial Weekend?
Yeah,
So
let's see.
you do get a couple of weeks. Now I'm just gonna take a look at some of the movies that Mario is now right behind and probably going to pass in the next week or two on the all-time domestic list. That's where we're at now. We're looking at Mario on the all-time domestic list. It's currently number 19 all-time domestic at 490, but it is going to pass in the next week or so the Beauty and the Beast remake, Star Wars The Rise of Skywalker, which should just keep falling down that list
Of course, yeah.
constantly. Rogue One, A Star Wars Story, and Dark Knight. Dark Knight is at 534. So Mario, of course, is going to pass all these movies probably in the next
Mhm.
week or two. The Lion King remake, 543. Incredibles 2 at 608. I mean, Mario's going to get past that. It's already
Oh,
pacing ahead of
100%.
Incredibles 2.
100%.
Star Wars 8, The Last Jedi at 620. And take a look at this one. I mean, Mario, I think it's safe that it is going to pass the original Avengers, which made 623 million. Mario's at 490, so that means Mario would have to make another 100 and what is that? 133 million plus 134. Mario's going to do that. Mario's going to end up beating the original Avengers. This run is incredible.
Mhm.
Incredible.
I mean, because even if it doesn't make the top 10 domestic, it's still an incredible run.
Yes. And top 10 domestic is not out of the realm of possibility. To get into the top 10 domestic, it would have to get to 653 million passing the original passing Jurassic World. That's what
Mhm.
it would have to pass. That's doable. That's another 160 million that Mario would have to make. It just had a $40 million week. I
Yeah.
think that's very, very possible that Super Mario Brothers, the movie, ends up one of the top 10 domestic earners of all time. That would be
It
spectacular for
yeah.
Mario.
And here's the thing. I'm hearing that Guardians 3 is not your normal fun, goofy Guardians movie.
Oh boy.
I'm
Oh
hearing it's
boy.
pretty dark.
Oh
And that
boy.
is I can we can get into the ramifications of that and the mistake that is
Yeah.
on our preview episode this week. But
Yeah.
saying that, if
Hmm.
that movie is dark,
Yes. If it's
then
Nolan-esque, if it's Gunn doing Nolan,
yeah, then Super Mario Brothers is going to get probably nicked for the first weekend, and then you're
Mhm.
gonna see, I want Mario again because Mario
Yes.
is fun.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, I don't wanna see Drax crying. I wanna see Mario in a raccoon suit,
Exactly. I wanna
right?
see
Like,
happy Pratt, not acting Pratt,
yeah,
because
well,
Pratt can't
even
act,
better,
but Pratt could be Mario.
I don't wanna see a crying raccoon.
Right.
I wanna see a happy raccoon in Super
Yes.
Mario Brothers,
Yes. Yes.
right? So that's the thing is that Marvel is gonna continue to fuck up, and the benefit is gonna be Super Mario Brothers. So, as you said, there's runway after Guardians.
Yep.
We both, I mean, I'm regretting saying that I thought Guardians is gonna be one of the top 5 earners of the summer now, because this thing is probably going to underperform because no one wants to go and cry all like for 2.5 hours at a Guardians movie. Okay.
No. No.
They want to laugh and they want to see King Koopa sing a song about Peach.
Exactly, exactly. And Clayton, you should. I love that you're able to pull that reference of a great moment in the Super Mario Brothers movie. I would love for you to be able to experience that in real life. So you should see the Super Mario Brothers movie on pace to possibly enter the top 10 of all time.
Okay, here's the thing. How about I
So,
see it when if it's a top 10 of all time movie, I'll go see it.
but so you will see it in a movie theater on the
Mhm.
weekend that it eclipses, that it makes its way into the top 10 domestic of all time.
Yes. Yes. That's when I will see it, and only when I will see it. If it is a
Okay.
top 10 domestic earner, I will go to the theater and see this film.
Want to
And I will
want to be a
still sleep for 60% of it, but I will be there in
You will
person.
be there. Okay, well, wanna be a intern, Christopher, please mark this, please clip this out because we need to hold Clayton accountable, and we need to make sure he follows through on this. So please clip that. Clayton will see the Super Mario Brothers movie in theaters. He will sit there in a movie theater for the duration of the film when Super Mario Brothers eclipses Jurassic World and gets into the top 10 domestic of all time.
Mhm.
Okay, this is huge. I accept that, and we will hold you accountable for that. So that's a Super Mario Brothers movie. Here's another holdover that I think is a nice little story, and it's Evil Dead Rise #2. Made
Yeah.
12.2 million, dropped 50% in its second weekend. But for a horror movie in its second weekend, that is a drop that shows people like this film, and the word on this film is good.
Yeah.
And this is officially a full-on success for Warner Brothers, putting Evil
Mhm.
Dead Rise in the theaters. This is at 44.4 million. It's now pacing ahead of the Fede Alvarez remake. It's going to make more than that remake did, and that was considered a success. So, Clayton, do we have it's odd to ask this question now for a when the first film came out in what, like 1984, but 40 years into this, do we finally have an official franchise when it comes to Evil Dead? Is this
I
going to
think that
be a franchise?
didn't the original, Evil Dead, when didn't that come out in the late 70s? No, it came
No,
out in 81.
81, and then
So that's
and then
Evil Dead's almost as old as Mario or around the same age.
yes, yes. But I
So
think Evil Dead Rise with this box office, 44 million, we've heard rumblings that they're outlining a bunch of new movies. Sam Raimi and his partners are outlining stories for more movies. This is officially a success, and I think officially you got to crank out these Evil Dead movies.
oh, yeah, I feel like it's a refillable concept, right? Now that
Mhm.
they've kind of released themselves from the need to have Bruce Campbell in these, which, listen, I love Bruce Campbell. He's such an integral part of those first 3 films. But he's an older man, and his the that character is not necessarily a easily transferable character, right?
Mhm.
So, I feel like to just take the Evil Dead themselves and do several films with them, the fan base is there for it. They'll
Yes.
always have the original trilogy to go back to. I think they
Mhm.
understand that. They have a TV show, Ash versus Evil Dead, that went for a few seasons. So they have that. They have plenty of Ash stuff to deal with and rewatch. So I do think that this is a refillable sort of series,
Mhm.
and we're seeing here, like, 2 years from now, if they do another one, the audience will be there for it.
Yep.
And this in it and listen, you don't have to go much more budget-wise on this, a little bit higher will do, but this was meant to be a streaming movie. Now, these movies are gonna be made with the intent to go theatrical.
Yes.
So, you're gonna add a little bit of money to the budget, don't go crazy, don't go crazy,
Don't go crazy.
but
Don't go crazy.
don't go crazy. Add a little bit and make it truly a theatrical film, and you're gonna have another hit on your hands.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, the 2013 remake, after it's at this exact same point in time, was at 41 million. Evil Dead Rides at 44 million. So
Mhm.
the audience for these movies is increasing right now.
Yes.
So it's a franchise on the rise, which you love to see. So people this weekend, they wanted their Mario, they wanted their Evil Dead. Did they want God? And did they want Margaret? And this is, we didn't do a prediction episode for this weekend on our last episode. Of course, we had
No.
our gigantic summer movie preview episode with Jeff Bach of Exhibit Relations Co. Clayton, talking numbers, talking all-time numbers, is already pacing to be one of the biggest BO Boys episodes of all time. So thank you,
Yes.
want to BO Boys, want to BO Girls, want to BO people,
People.
for downloading this 2.5 hour masterpiece. And so that episode is tracking incredibly well, but we didn't do any predictions for this weekend. So we never predicted any numbers for Are You There, God, It's Me, Margaret. So it came in at 6.8 million in its debut, had a full wide release, 3,300 theaters. Is this a solid, obviously 6.8 is small, but for this type of movie, can you really lambast it for opening number 3 at 6.8 million? I mean, you can't praise it. We're not here saying time to adapt all the Judy Blume books and make a Judy Blume verse and, this is the new Marvel. But I find it hard to sit here and say this was a disaster for
I mean, it
Lionsgate.
was not a disaster because it didn't cry macho, right? I
It didn't
mean,
cry macho, no.
right? So, here's the thing. The audience for this film is older Caucasian women,
Okay.
right? Over 50 Caucasian women. 55% of Margaret's audience were over 45. This is according
Wow.
to Anthony D is for Disney D'Alessandro.
Mhm.
Women over 25 numbered 62%. Here's the real damning thing for this movie.
Oh boy.
Women under 25, 16%,
Oh,
right?
Jesus.
70% Caucasian, which
Right.
here's the thing, there's a lot of Caucasians in the US, so that's
Right,
not
right,
necessarily bad because it just over-indexed, but
right,
nobody else wants to see it, right?
right, right,
And
right,
it's an aged out audience. I think they were hoping that this movie would be a generational film, a female of all generations, for females of all
right.
generations.
And
And
all
it turned
races
out
and
that
all creeds, yeah.
yeah, and it turned out that it is a movie for one generation,
Right,
and that generation is older white women, which is fine, but not enough came out to make this a success.
right, right.
But as we've seen, this movie being in theaters is the best advertisement for it down the line.
Yes, yes.
And I don't think this movie will probably make its bones back down the line, right, in PVOD when it lands, whatever streamer it's going to land, because it's Lionsgate, right? So I don't know, where does Lionsgate movies go? They
I
go to
feel like
Netflix?
I feel like Peacock is possibly where Lionsgate films go. I feel like I've seen a lot of John Wick. The John Wick movies are currently on Peacock, I'm pretty sure. So it could be a Peacock situation, or yeah, it could be Netflix. But it definitely is a situation where Lionsgate will get this on streaming, in the relative near future. Totally agree. It had to go to theaters. If this was a Netflix original, it would have had 2 days of people being aware of it, and then it would have fallen off the face of the earth.
Mhm.
So it's definitely better this went to theaters. $6.8 million. I mean, here's some issues that I see with how they did this movie. First of all, the book came out in 1971 or so, and they set it in the 70s. And I think we are maybe finally getting to the point where the 70s is too long ago,
Mhm.
where young
It's 80s or
people,
bust.
you got to start with 80s. There's still a lot of 80s nostalgia, but I
Yeah.
don't think young people want to see 70s paraphernalia in a movie. 70s
No.
clothes. They don't want to see like Vietnam footage playing on the TV, and then all along the watchtower plays, which I haven't
Yeah,
seen Are You
yeah.
There, God? It's Me, Margaret. I I would say it's 50-50 that sequence is in this movie where Margaret
Mhm.
is walking through her living room and her parents are watching the news, and the news has Vietnam footage and all along the watchtower plays. It's set in the
Yeah.
70s. There's always that chance that you're getting that sequence. And Margaret's brother is thinking of going to Canada so you don't get drafted. I don't know. I haven't seen this movie. I read the book a long time ago. 50-50 that's a sequence in the movie. And young people don't want that anymore. They want, at its earliest, they want Challenger explosion footage to be what a
Yeah.
family's watching in the living room. They don't want Vietnam footage.
Yeah, Margaret should be dressed like Madonna
Yes.
circa her first album, circa Like a Virgin.
Yes. Yes.
You
Yes.
know, that's that. I mean, that's the earliest. That
Yes.
here I mean, like for
Not Mama Cass.
no,
They
no.
don't want Margaret dressed as Mama Cass. They want
Well,
her
Mama
dressed
Cass
as
is more
Madonna.
60s. You're talking pretty 60s here. That
Okay,
the
but
Mamas and the Papas
so
were
Donna
60s.
Summers. They want Madonna, not
Yes.
Donna Summers. Yes.
Thank you. Perfect, perfect.
Yes.
And
Yes.
best case, put her in flannel. You know,
Oh,
this
so
should be 90s. I mean,
set it in the
because
90s, yeah.
there is still that. I mean, that's for the older group, that's their youth. And for the
Right.
younger group, there's a fascination with the 90s as if it was
Yes.
like a better time, an idyllic time.
Yes, yes. I agree. This movie should have been moved up, if not to present day, then they should have had it be a period piece in the 90s. Margaret is dealing with, the movie starts on the day that Kurt Cobain died, and Margaret's dealing with her feelings from that.
Mhm.
That's where the movie starts. It's not about Margaret dealing with the fallout from Watergate.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
That is
yeah.
not what modern audiences want anymore.
Yeah.
Here's the other thing that I think was an issue with Are You There, God? It's Me, Margaret. And it's that there isn't a movie star playing Margaret, or at least not a movie star, because it's obviously going to be hard to find in
I was just
any
gonna
time
say.
a movie star who is that young.
Yeah.
It's you get the rare periods in history where your biggest star in the world is a Macaulay Culkin, is someone who is also a child.
Well,
But
she's not that young in this, is she? That actress?
no,
She's a
she's
teenager.
like a teenager. Well, which
You
is
could
why
get Jenny
here's
Ortega.
I mean, Clayton, you stepped on it, but that's where I was going, is they
Yeah.
needed to get Jenny Ortega to play Margaret in this movie.
But see, Jenny Ortega would be like, some of these lines, I had to change them because
Mm.
I don't know who this Judy Blume character is, but she just doesn't know about kids. And
But
so
you
I had to change all these lines, and I didn't
now
even want to do it. I didn't even want to do it.
now you're referencing just some interviews Jenny Ortega gave about the show Wednesday. Obviously, that's what you're doing there.
Yeah.
And here's what I'll say: let Jenny Ortega get a crack at the script then, because
And
it's Jenny
also,
Ortega, and if
I
she
t-
is
yeah.
is going to be willing to be the lead in your low budget movie, you let her take a crack at the script and put the words in her language, because Are You There, God? It's Me, Margaret should be modernized anyway. And Jenny Ortega should play Margaret, and let Jenny Ortega make the dialogue her own. If she's willing to be in the movie, give her that pen, give her the red pen.
And also, I teased Jenny Ortega
Mhm.
because she was talking about a TV show,
Mhm.
not a movie, when she was
Right.
talking about the Wednesday writers,
Right.
as she should, because
Right.
TV is a lower form of
Mhm.
entertainment than movies. I do think she would have been respectful about a movie script
Right.
as opposed to whatever length Wednesday is, like what, an hour long dramedy, whatever that show was.
Right.
I could see her being less respectful of that.
Right.
So
Well,
I'm on her side. I was just poking and teasing at her. I think she's one of the only young stars we have.
yeah. And I think, listen, this movie, Are You There, God? It's Me, Margaret, getting great reviews. I'm sure it is good. And I'm sure the actress Abby Ryder Fortson is great in the movie. That's everything you hear, is she's great in the movie, and people are loving this movie. So not to take anything away
99%
from her,
recommend.
but Jenny Ortega in the lead opens this movie to $15 million. I mean, and that is just the way it is. Jenny Ortega as Margaret in a 90s set movie opens at $15 million instead of 6.8.
Here's another reason why I think this movie did not do Buff a Bobo.
Mm.
The title.
Okay.
Okay. Are you there, God? All right.
Mm.
We are in the midst of a literal Jesus revolution at the movie theaters, right?
Okay.
You've got religious films doing really well, right? To the point where even a movie like Nefarious can show up in the top 10. The fact that there's even a question of God's existence in the title of this movie might have turned off some of the heartland here. Because if it would have
Huh.
been, "Hey, God, it's me, Margaret," that's an acknowledgement
Mm.
that God exists, right? But it's
Right.
like, "Are you there, God?" What? Of course he is. What is this? Now,
Mm.
that's that's a certain demographic would be turned off by that, the Jesus Revolution demographic. And
Right.
you
Right.
needed them, right?
Right.
You needed them for this movie to be bigger than it is. So I
Right.
think that was a problem. Listen, you can change the title of books to when they're adapted into films. It happens all the time.
Sure. Sure. The book was called Wise Guys. The movie was called Goodfellas. And
Exactly.
obviously audiences were okay with that. I think that's as much as you could change, is that are you there to hey.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
think
Hey,
it
God,
works.
it's me, Margaret.
Hey, God, it's me, Margaret. I mean, I'm sure now there are some wannabe O boys, wannabe O girls, wannabe O people
People.
who were yelling at their earbuds saying, no, that's the title of the book. It's relevant to where she is at that point in her life. She's questioning whether God is helping her because of all she's going through, blah, blah, blah. All along the
Blah, blah, blah.
Watchtower is playing as her and her family are watching Vietnam footage on the news. But we're thinking box office, because we want as
Yes.
many people as possible to see this film. We want Judy Blume to get her beak wet, to get, because she's got points when it comes to this film. So we want Judy Blume to get paid with as high a box office as possible. And we want a Bloomiverse, because listen, I mean, I think I could speak for you. You made light of it earlier, but we are super fudge people. I mean,
Mhm.
I love those super fudge books. I want to see a big budget, big screen super fudge movie, not a streamo. I'm not going to watch that.
Yeah.
But we want to see these Judy Blume books get adapted, and that's not going to happen at this level of box office. You need
Mhm.
it to come out of the gate strong, and I think it needed to be, like you said, "Hey God, it's me, Margaret," set in the 1990s, starring
Yeah.
Jenna Ortega. That movie opens up to 15, maybe $18 million, and sets you up for a Judy Blume cinematic universe.
And it would work thematically because in the 90s, people were more like, "Hey, hey."
Yeah.
Right? I
Hey
mean, the
God. Yep.
Daria sort of the
Yes.
Janine Garofalo sort of detachment, right? Of,
Right.
"Hey, God, it's me, Margaret." Right? I mean,
Right.
that would work.
That
In
would
the
work. Yeah.
70s, you would use full sentences.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. So if you set this in the 90s, then the title makes a lot more sense. Hey
Yeah.
God. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
"Hey, God.
It
Hey,
was
God."
the era of Hey Dude.
Of course, right? So, I mean, listen, all this to say, I'm
She's
glad.
watching Hey Dude, and then she looks up and she's like, "Hey God, it's me, Margaret.
Yeah.
Why did you
All
take
this to
Kurt
say
Cobain?"
all this to say, yeah, why'd you kill Kurt Cobain? Why'd you take
Yeah.
him from us?
Yeah, yeah.
Now, all this is to say
And Desert
that
Storm footage is playing on the TV in her parents'
yeah,
living room. Yeah.
and Blind Melon is playing. I
Yeah.
mean, No Rain,
Yeah.
right? I mean,
Yeah.
that's what we need.
Margaret would be dressed as the B girl in a sequence, a Halloween party. She'd be
Halloween
dressed as the
sequence,
B
she's the
girl.
B girl. Yes,
Yeah,
of course. I mean, this
100%.
movie is I would see this movie immediately.
Yes, and it stars Jenny Ortega.
I
You
would
get a
knock
trailer together where it's Jenny Ortega in the B girl outfit in a humorous Halloween sequence. No Rain is playing. Hey God, it's me, Margaret. Judy Blume is just counting stacks on opening weekend.
Mhm.
Counting stacks.
Yeah. So all is this to say that this is a great commercial for its streaming release. I mean, I do
Yes.
think this movie is something that people will discover on PVOD and down the line, which, listen, that's part of the business.
Yes.
Theatrical is the most important part of the business, but it's not the only part of the business.
Yes.
I
Yes.
think, but that's the problem is everybody has to remember it is the most important part of the business, right?
Yes. Yes. Yes.
So Netflix, listen up. All your movies don't mean shit because they're never in theaters.
Exactly.
Now,
So,
let's yeah, can we talk real fast, Star
sure.
Wars: Return of the Jedi? I don't wanna talk too
Yes.
much about this because I don't care about Star Wars, but what it
But
shows is that a catalog film can
mm,
do Bafa Bobo at the theater. We talk about this all the time. Theaters
mm,
utilize catalog films. This is more of a nationwide situation here, and listen, this thing made 4.6 million. It wasn't even in any kind of, PLFs. Like,
no.
imagine if they woulda done an IMAX re-release of this thing. I mean, that movie, it would have made probably, like, 7 or 8.
Yeah, and I mean, this movie hasn't been getting a insane marketing campaign. This isn't like in the was it the mid late 90s when they did the big reissue of all the Star Wars movies and they were making
Yeah.
30-40 million opening weekends, but that was uh uh hand in hand with giant marketing campaigns the level of a new movie.
Yeah.
Disney just dropped Return of the Jedi in these theaters. People found them and people went. Uh, it shows the strength of that catalog films can have, but I do think what it shows is, and as much as you don't care about Star Wars, I also am not personally a big Star Wars guy. Neverending Story was my Star Wars,
Mhm.
but people, for whatever reason, love this franchise, and it just shows how wild it is that Disney and Kathleen Kennedy and everyone who runs the Star Wars franchise has punted on Star Wars being a theatrical franchise. They
Yep.
just put out a 30, 40-year-old movie that people are watching that's playing on TNT right now nonstop. People can watch it at
Yep.
home any second on TNT. And that movie made almost $5 million at the box office. And yet Disney and Kathleen Kennedy can't get their act together to get a new Star Wars movie in theaters. They've just made TV shows. It's wild. It's wild.
And this movie was only showing in 475 theaters.
Oh my God.
It had a $9,882 per theater average,
Wow.
which is more than
Wow.
Mario.
More than Mario.
But Mario's
Amazing.
kicking ass with 9,500, which is amazing
Yeah.
for as many
And it's in
theaters
his
as
fourth
it's
week.
in.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. But still, that's pretty good for a movie that is, yes, decades old.
Yeah. Yeah. 40 years old. That is
Mhm.
incredible. If anything, the success that Return of the Jedi had at the theater this weekend is an embarrassment for Disney. And I get
Yeah.
that they got to make this $5 million at the box office, but that $5 million to me isn't worth the embarrassment that they're suffering right now, because it shows how inept they are at handling the Star Wars franchise. There has not been a theatrical Star Wars movie since December 2019. We're
Mhm.
going on 4 years, and there is nothing in production.
And
Nothing.
that
I
was a
don't care how many
disappointment.
script announcements there are. There is no Star Wars movie in production right now. That is embarrassing.
Well,
Embarrassing.
all the headlines, the most recent headline is David Lindelof was he was asked to leave his Star Wars project. Those
Uh,
are not good headlines.
no. And those are the only headlines these Star Wars movies ever get. They get
Is
two
that
kinds of
this movie's
headlines.
not
The
going
announcement,
ahead.
they get the announcement that this person's writing a Star Wars movie, and then they get
Mhm.
the announcement 6 months later this person has exited their Star Wars movie. That
Yep,
is
yep.
the only thing that Kathleen Kennedy is able to get out to make happen, is signing someone and then exiting someone. How do you not have any Star Wars movies in theaters? Return of the Jedi just made almost $5 million and is playing nonstop on TNT.
Mhm.
It's an
Yeah,
embarrassment.
Lindelof was and I had to double check that Lindelof was even working on a film because they just pump out these television shows on Disney
Hmm.
Plus that are Star Wars related that are, just diluting the market. I mean, listen, it's the Marvel situation all over again. Disney just
Hmm.
doesn't know what to do with their with what they have. They're just diluting their brands left and right.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. It's an
enough
embarrassment. This,
enough there's enough time for Disney hate later. There'll be
yeah.
plenty of time for Disney hate this summer. So, let's move on real fast to Big George Foreman. This
Hmm.
movie is DOA, $3 million. It
Yeah.
opened in 3,000 theaters, so it was a wide release. I just think if this was about him making the grill, like if this was an
Hmm.
Air-esque, like, hey
Yes.
man, you had this comeback, everybody loves you now. What are you gonna do? And he's like, I got an idea for a grill. And everybody says, George, you're an idiot. You're a boxer. You can't make a grill. No
Hmm.
boxer's ever made a grill. How are you going to make a grill?
Right.
Then he goes in his garage and he makes a grill. That's the
Right.
movie people want to see. They don't
Right.
want to see a movie about a boxer anymore if the name of that boxer isn't Rocky or Creed.
Yes. 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 Um, and George Foreman is just, he's one of those figures that had his celebrity run at a very specific moment in time.
Mhm.
He was the funny old man who came back and won the title, but even that was in the 90s, right? George Foreman's
Mhm.
comeback was in the 90s, and that is so not held up through the generations as a
No.
important moment. This
Yeah.
movie needed to be, how big George Foreman is a success at the box office? If you make it in the 90s and George Foreman plays himself and it's a total cash in situation, they waited too long
Yes.
to make this movie. This needed to be George Foreman as George Foreman in Big George Foreman, and
Yes.
it's a Farrelly Brothers production. They get their
Mhm.
assistant director to direct it, and it comes out in 1999.
Yes.
That's when this is a success. And again, not it sounds like we're leaning too much on the 90s here, but I think you've got another situation where they waited too long to cash in on the IP, and young people do not care.
Yeah,
Young
George
people
Foreman
do
just
not care.
hasn't stayed in the zeitgeist the way that even someone like Mike Tyson has. I mean, if
No.
you ask a
Other than the
young
grill.
kid,
Obviously, the grill is gigantic,
is it
but
still though? I don't.
I
I
think
haven't
so.
seen one of those. Oh no, I haven't seen one of those in years.
But you're not a college student anymore. I am sure it's a situation where the George Foreman grill is still, issued to you. You get a sack of condoms and you get a George Foreman grill when you check into your dorm.
Yeah.
I don't think the George Foreman grill is gone down, but I think people. It's one of those things where do people even associate a person with that grill? If you are under the age of 30, I don't even think you think of a human being who's attached to that grill. It's just the George Foreman grill, the way that tissues are called Kleenex.
Well, I
But you're
think
not
it's
thinking
more
of
like
Joey Kleenex, associated with that. That's what they call this thing.
I mean, I think it's a Paul Newman situation where Paul
Mm.
Newman is more known for his food products than anything he ever did to young people, right?
To young people, yeah. Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
like, yeah, Paul Newman is like, a guy on a salad dressing bottle.
Right. 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 Yeah, so I think that's the
He might as
situation
well
they're
be
in.
Mr. Clean to little kids, you know?
Yes, exactly, exactly.
If
So
if if
yeah,
we told if I showed Mr. Clean to somebody, if I showed to a kid a
right.
bottle that had Mr. Clean on it or the Bounty Guy, it's
Yes,
more
that's a
likely
great
the
one.
Bounty Guy,
The
and
bouncy
then
guy.
a product that had Paul Newman on it, and I asked, "Which one of these was a movie star, a huge
Yes.
movie star?" They would probably say, "The Bounty Guy."
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's no rub I mean, Paul Newman, listen, icon,
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 iconic, iconic.
iconic, king,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
But to a kid, he's a guy on a bottle he's on a box of popcorn or whatever, you know? Like,
Yes,
that's
yes.
the problem with culture. It moves so fast and leaves
Yeah.
people behind, and George Foreman has been left behind.
Yeah. It's if you ask a kid who starred in Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid and you showed him Paul Newman dressing and you showed him Orville Redenbacher, they might it's going to be 50-50. They might just say, I don't know, Orville Redenbacher, was he a
Yeah,
big
show him the
actor
Jolly
in the
Green Giant. It's a
Yeah,
toss-up.
exactly. And that's definitely the case with George Foreman. And the grill, people know the grill, they don't know or care about the person. And so that is how that went for Big George Foreman. But you know what? It'll get a little bit of a boost when it goes to streaming, though I do feel like this is a movie that's probably also going to die on streaming. I don't think Big George Foreman is going to be a hugely watched movie on any platform going
And,
forward.
this is a faith-based movie, and faith-based movies, as we've been saying, have had a really good run at the box office, but I don't think they leaned into that enough.
No, no,
Because we were like,
no.
"Is this faith-based?" And we had to look it up. You should not have to look up whether a movie is faith-based or not.
Yeah, yeah. This should have been called Jesus's Boxer,
Yes,
the Big
Jesus'
George
favorite
Foreman story.
boxer,
Yeah,
Big George Foreman.
yeah,
Exactly, here we go.
yeah.
Now,
Um,
Pat,
yes.
what were you gonna say? Because I do think there's one movie we do have to speak about, because I'm hearing a lot of misconceptions about why this movie was made and what the
Okay.
expectations for this movie were. And I'm talking
Okay. All
about
right.
number 11, Beau is Afraid. Okay.
Beau is Afraid.
Ari
Yes, Beau
Aster,
is Afraid.
A24.
Yes.
This weekend, it made $1.4 million. It added 1,160 theaters, and it dropped 46%. Okay.
Mhm. Mhm.
It's at $5.5 million in its third weekend. Only
Yep.
2 of those weekends were wide releases. The first weekend was, I think, 4 theaters, some of those IMAXs, right?
Okay. Yes, it had the 1 week
N
of IMAX screens. Yes.
Now, I am just hearing from pundits who usually understand the business
Mhm.
how this is terrible for Ari Aster, and he dinged himself, and this is bad, and
Well,
what a
I've heard I've
bomb.
heard I've heard I've heard pundits say it's career killer.
It's
That
a
it's a
career
uh,
killer.
yeah, we've all heard the audio. It's fucking career killer. That's what I've heard. I'm quoting pundits that are out there.
Okay.
That Beau is Afraid is a career killer for Ari Aster.
Okay, not only is Ari Aster bigger than ever, this is
Mm,
going to affect his career not negatively at all. It is
mhm.
not gonna affect it one one bit,
One
because
bit.
what
No.
this was, and you said this, and the reason why I wanna talk about this and really emphasize this is because I think you said these words in our summer preview episode, which is 2 hours and 30 minutes, which, listen, you
Yes.
have to listen to every single second of it because it's important and it is, it's essential.
It's necessary. And it's almost as long as Beau is Afraid, but not quite. Beau is
Exactly.
Afraid is 3 hours. We got to 2.5 hours.
But, listen, things can get lost in that sea of excellence.
Mm.
So,
Mhm.
I totally agree with what you said, and and forgive me if I'm getting it wrong or I'm paraphrasing it wrong, but this was A24 locking down their guy. This
Yes.
was an investment in the future. When you think of A24, what is one of the first filmmakers you think of? Maybe the number one filmmaker you think of. It's Ari Aster.
Mhm.
He's the
Mhm.
guy. He's the A24 guy. He put them on the fucking map.
He's
And
their
so,
Michigan J. Frog.
yes, they
Yes.
spent 35 million for him to make his pet project. And are people really out there thinking A24 is sitting there sweating, wringing their hands, being like, I can't believe this movie isn't as big as Everything Everywhere All at Once. What's happening? What's
Right.
happening?
Right.
They knew what was going to happen. They
They knew
knew
it was
this
gonna
was an
happen.
inaccessible movie.
Right.
They were locking down their guy. And we
Right.
should be
Right.
happy that a company is willing to invest in art, is willing to invest in a person, not an IP,
Right. And
right?
I'll forget that. Let's get off of them investing in art. Cuz sure, but we're talking business. This was them investing in their business. This was the
Yeah,
cost of them doing business because like you said, they knew Beau's Afraid is not going to be a huge hit at the box office. I don't think they expected anything more than what they got out of it. But the
they might have been
reason
expecting less.
they might have been expecting less. The reason that they spent this isn't for this movie, it's for the next Ari Aster movie. And listen,
Yes.
here's the thing. The next Ari Aster movie can't be Beau is Afraid. It
No.
can't be a incredibly uh personal or all movies should be personal, but it can't be this
Not
narrow
true.
targeted. The next Ari Aster movie for A24 needs to and probably will be more in the lines of a Hereditary or Midsommar, whether it's a horror movie or another genre. It'll be a movie that they know has a bigger target for their audience, has a chance of being an Oscar movie, because I'm sure that is
Mhm.
also what they see in Ari Aster as a guy who could get them a Best Picture, Best Director nomination with a future movie. And that is why they spent 35 million on this very deeply personal horror comedy, whatever this is, that they knew was not going to make that much money. Also, here's the other thing about Beau is Afraid. It had Joaquin Phoenix in it. It had
Mhm.
Joker in it. So 35 million for a movie starring Joaquin Phoenix. I'm sure this movie already pre-sold a lot of rights foreign wise and on television, and not to be the Rock here with his financiers, but Beau is Afraid, because it had Joaquin Phoenix, is not going to lose that much money, even at a $35 million budget. They know
Yeah.
they're going to make up a lot of that money guaranteed because Joaquin Phoenix wanted to do this. So listen, this is a movie that's out of the top 10. We're spending time on this because it's getting a lot of buzz and a lot of wrong opinions out there that the BO boys needed to correct. We don't care if people don't like a movie. That's
Yeah, it doesn't
subjective.
matter.
But
That's
business
subjective.
is objective. And we want to correct all of these misinformations that are going out there on the business end of this movie. And hey, listen, you want to call us shills? Call us, I don't know, call us the shills of the week for Ari Aster? You go do that. You go look like a bozo and you call us shills. We're out here setting the record straight on the business of show business, which
Mhm.
not everyone understands. And you know what? We pat them on the head and we say, you keep learning, listen to the BO boys, and maybe you'll figure it out someday.
Yeah. Get some education there.
Yeah.
All right. Well,
So
Pat, I mean, is there anything else we want to talk about? I don't think so. I mean, I think we pretty
we
much talked
covered
about this.
everything.
Yeah.
Could I just say one note? We don't even talk about the box office for it, but that movie Zizou, the dog Nazi movie, opened, and just got a note because Anthony D. Alessandro did note in his weekend wrap up that, as a way of getting the buzz out there, Lionsgate is doing everything. And this is quote from Anthony D. Alessandro: "The pick is buzzing among cinema fans. The
I
pick is
think it's
buzzing.
Synasts, isn't it?
Synass. There's some words that you don't end up saying out loud very much. This pick is buzzing among Synass with the studio. I hear even setting up a private screening for movie lover and comedian Patton Oswalt. So that is how you move the needle. That is how you get the buzz out there. You set up a screening for movie lover and comedian Patton Oswalt. So
Yeah.
there you go,
Cultural
Lionsgate.
tastemaker,
Yeah.
Patton Oswalt.
Yeah.
Yes.
So swinging for the fences, Lionsgate. Sisu is out there in theaters nationwide, and maybe Patton Oswalt will tweet about it. So we'll see.
So, okay, real quick, because I
Real
know,
quick.
we don't want to do 2.5 hours again,
No.
but we got an email about our summer
Yes.
movie preview
Yes.
from Adam from the Stacks.
Yes.
OG BO boy.
Yes.
OG with
Yes.
a capital O and a capital G.
Yeah.
And he's taken me to task. He's taken me to the woodshed here.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to read this email. He says, it starts with the title, Don't Bet Against Fast X. BO
Mm-hmm.
boys. I think Fast X is going to perform very well. They are clearly moving back in the right direction after the insanity of the last film. Clayton, admit it. You dislike Vin Diesel and the broy douchiness of him, The Rock, all the macho alpha dog chest thumping. But worldwide, men and women love it. America and the world is full of low IQ stacks dwellers who eat this stuff up. Okay, here's the thing. I have to defend myself here. I I am I mean, I've said it on the podcast, a Fast and the Furious fan. I see all these movies opening weekend. I am pro douchey bros. I am pro Vin Diesel. I I like Vin Diesel more than The Rock. I was on Vin Diesel's side against The Rock, and I think I've been vindicated because it shows that The Rock is a bozo.
Mm.
His tweets have shown he is a bozo. I mean, they're both bozos, but still. I am a
There you
fan
go.
of bro.
There you go. You just called Vin Diesel a bozo. Adam
Listen,
from the Stacks would say that shows your
there,
bias.
but that's why we like him. We
Mhm.
know he's a bozo. He's a bozo who has his priorities in the right place. Here's the thing. I am for broy douche culture. Okay. I think there needs to be more of it at the theater. I'm sick of dork culture. I want more broy douche culture, okay?
Mm.
I don't know where this perception of me being against chest thumping and broy douche. I'm a jock. I'm a jock, okay? That is I'm a jock, right, Pat? I play soccer. I'm a jock.
You have talked about how you played soccer a long time
Yeah,
ago.
yeah.
Yeah.
So here's the thing. I do agree we were low on Fast X and didn't talk about it as much. Adam goes on to say this is the only film in the entire summer that is star-studded. It's got Vin Diesel, Jason Statham, Charlize Theron, John Cena, Jason Momoa, Ludacris, and the ghost of Paul Walker, R.I.P. Yeah, he still
Mm.
is. I think he does cast a shadow on this cast.
Okay.
But also, we're forgetting that Brie Larson is in this movie as well. I don't know if you would say she's a star or even a value add, but she's definitely like, oh,
A
wait, she's in
famous
that
person.
movie?
Yeah.
Yeah, she's a famous person. She's a YouTuber like us.
Yes.
So
Yes.
the thing about this that I take umbrage with is saying that I am somehow not a fan of alpha dog chest thumping and machoism. I am a fan of those things. I am Joe Lunchpail. I am salt of the earth. Those are my people.
Right.
So I do take umbrage to that. I was not low on the movie because of that. I was low on the movie because I do think that this is a franchise on the wane.
It is, but like I said in our 2.5 hour summer movie preview, the thing that this movie has going for it is that Fast 9 opened early COVID, box office, and this will probably perform better than that. So I think it will have the perception of being a franchise again on the rise because Fast X should be able to open bigger and leg out better than Fast 9 did in the summer of 2021. So that
It,
is something it has going for it. And the perception then will be there that heading into the last movie, the family's back. People are more into them now than they were with the last film.
and I'll give Adam the benefit. Obviously, listen, Adam, I understand. I mean, there's no reason to count this franchise out because they have not had an outright disappointment
No, no,
yet. And they
no.
probably won't. I mean, I am kind of regretting putting Guardians above Fast X in my top 5 because, like I said, I think Fast X is going to give their core what they want. And from what I'm hearing, and I might be wrong, this Guardians is not going to give people what they want, which is a fun Marvel romp. And
Right,
it's
right.
just it's flummoxing. It's just making my mind bend. And we'll deal with that
We'll deal with that
later
coming
this
up
week.
later. And we
Later
will be
this week.
seeing that film this weekend, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. So
We
we'll
already
know
have our
definitively.
tickets.
Yes.
Yeah.
But thank you, Adam from the Stacks, for reaching out, for keeping us honest, for
Mhm.
defending macho alpha dogs, for defending douchey bros, because you are right. Douchey bros are a huge, huge segment of the box office, and
Yeah.
they should not be discounted. And listen, uh, Clayton came from the dirt. He came from the stacks, but
Mhm.
he's lives in New York and like me is now a coastal elite. And even though we are always trying to be mindful of stacks dwellers and earth dogs and plain billies, we
Mhm.
do need you to keep us honest and to make sure
Yeah.
we don't discount certain segments of the population. So thank you, Adam, for standing up for alpha dogs and for douchey bros at the box office. It's
Yeah.
necessary, and we thank you for it.
I'm here for you. Listen, douchey bros, I'm here for you. When I see
Yep.
somebody on the street with a backwards Cox hat,
Hmm.
I smile. Like there's
Yeah,
like
yeah,
a
yeah.
little inner warmth. I'm like, you're still going for it. You're
Right,
still going for it. Like, you
right.
haven't let society tell you to not be a douche.
Yes, yes. And you
Warms
go
my
to the
heart.
movies, and you go to the
Go to the movies.
movies. Yep.
Yeah.
So, yeah, thank you, Adam, for that. And of course, Uh, anyone who listens, who wants to email us, send us an email at theboboyspodcast@gmail.com. Give us your predictions, your boots on the ground reporting, or stand up for a segment of the movie going population that you think the BO boys are giving short shrift to. So,
Yeah.
much like Adam, defend your people at the BO boys podcast at gmail.com. And of
If
course,
you're a plus
mhm,
50-year-old woman, white
yes,
woman,
yes.
right? And you want to defend, hello, God, it's me, Margaret.
Are you there, God? It's me, Margaret. They didn't go with the
Oh,
correct
sorry.
title.
Sorry. Hello, it's me. Yeah. I want to dance
Yeah,
with
right.
somebody who loves me. That person is God. I'm Margaret, by the way.
Hmm.
Email us.
Yes, yes, yes. And listen, Book Club 2 is coming out in a couple of weeks. So the over 55-year-old Caucasian women, they're going to have another chance to represent at the box office. Maybe they were
Mhm.
saving it up, they were
That could be they're
saving
saving their trip for
there's
that.
yes, yes. So that may be where the over 50 Caucasian women come out in force is Book Club 2, not for They Are God, It's Me, Margaret. But listen, email us at the BO Boys Podcast at gmail.com and let us know if we gave short shrift to your movie going population this week. Of course, follow us on Twitter. Wanna BO intern Christopher is killing it with the video clip. So follow us at the BO Boys Pod on social media. We are YouTubers. So
Mhm.
subscribe to our YouTube channel down there. Smash that like button, smash that subscribe button. The videos are outstanding on the YouTube channel. You could see, you may have already listened to the 2.5 hour summer preview with Jeff Bach, but you could see Jeff Bach, see the
Mhm.
enthusiasm on his face. Remember, he said it himself. He was at 53% hype during
Yeah.
our episode. You could see what that looks like on the BO Boys YouTube channel. What does 53% hype look like in a human face? Only way
Yeah.
to find out, go to our YouTube channel, watch that 2.5 hour video. And of course, give us 5 stars on Apple Podcasts, helps other listeners find the show. And just tell people about the BO Boys. It's getting bigger than ever. Again, the summer
Mhm.
movie preview episode with Jeff Bach, the tracking is off the charts. The
Yeah.
pacing of that is off the charts. It's going to be maybe the biggest episode of all time when all is said and done. So this is the time to let people know about the BO boys, get them in the fold so we could educate them. Just like we
Yes.
educated certain pundits who are saying certain movies or certain career killers for certain directors. And, again, call us shills, but we call ourselves educators of the box office. So
Mhm.
let other people know so they too can be educated about the box office. Clayton, that's all I got.
Yeah. And I think that's all I got too, Pat. So there's nothing left to say
No.
except for until next time.
Will
Will
smell
smell you
you at
at
the
the
box
box
office.
office.
Nailed it.
Nailed it.